Hey everyone, now that the Luard Stride deck set has been revealed to the public, there has been, some thoughts that the game is now dead. Because every time Luard gets released, shortly after, the game suffers a huge collapse because Luard's so broken, and we have to, we just have got to reboot the game. And the answer to that, right, the short answer to that, I'll tell you right after I say that, BCW is doing a sale for Father's Day up to the 18th of June. So if you use our code WCC there, you'll be able to get a nice 20% discount and, maybe buy the sleeves in time for the Luard deck set to come. Or it'll come out later where, you can sleeve up your decks. But the answer really is that the game is not gonna die. That's just how it is. And I'll go through why, right? Because I think a lot of people have this weird notion or lost their sense of time back in G and V on the timelines that happened. So let's kind of dive right into it. So you can see now I have the product list here for the JP site. I had to go back so many pages, but this is back then in 2016, the 11th of the 11th. So November 11 was when the trial deck, I think for Luard came out, as well as the first booster pack. And, when Luard was released in G, it was pretty bad, right? Sure, everyone built it because, he looked cool, but the deck itself was pretty average. In fact, it was just not very good. That's just it. That's just it, right? And then you see there's actually a lot of releases after this, right? They released Try 3. Cool. Not really. Then they released an actual booster pack in BT10. This came out in February, so it's about 3 months, 2.5 months, right? And then they kept on going. It was the Rummy Labyrinth set. Blaster, the Blaster Legend deck, right? That came out. Fighters Collection. Set 13, right? Set 13. We did set 12, right? This is set 10. Wait, set 10? Did I skip some? Oh no, this is trial deck, my bad. So set 11 came out in June. So, if we look at this, there is still heaps of releases. They're happening at a good schedule, right? People can save money to buy the packs. Here's Bermuda. Basically, not a really impactful set at all. And then here's the next booster for Luard that actually made it better, right? This was the set that introduced Drag Driver and I think Belial Owl. And it actually made, Luard a very, very playable deck. But at the same time, it was also released with Gear Next, Draconic Vanquisher, Sparking, all that. So it wasn't a Battle Sisters as well, right? So this was not the tier 0 Luard deck that everyone thinks it is. In fact, Luard in G was just a good deck. It was just a good deck. It wasn't the brokenest deck. It was just a good deck to play. And set 12 definitely helped it out, but the game still wasn't dead then, right? This is August 2017, and definitely wasn't, right, the real issue. After this was the Messiah deck and the new Messiah trial deck, and then the Link Joker deck. And honestly, Link Joker is probably what killed the game, right? Everyone hates Link Joker, but to be fair, to be fair and real, the real cause of the destruction of the game was actually Ultimate Stride. Not just the booster pack itself, it was all the mechanic. Actually, it was both. It's a combination of both, right? Ultimate Stride released on the 17th of November, right? And this introduced basically really meta stuff. So Ziegenberg came out, and that just the Purge came out, right? The Purge came out, Draconic Overlord supports, all that, and this was a really, really broken set. But that wasn't the main issue, because literally 2 or 3 weeks after, they released the Awakening Zoo, which introduced Zoa. And you could say, what did this set do? This was actually a really impactful set as well, because Great Nature was good. Modern Day Mega Colony was okay. Well, Mega Colony back then was also pretty good too. And then Blue Asha was also really good too. So another level of power got released with the Awakening Zoo. And then, about a month and a half later, the Galaxy Stargate came out, and you're saying, wow, these are very impactful sets. And correct, right? Every single one of these decks were good. Even though you might not have seen them top much in the English side, there were good sets that had a lot of impact on the meta and forced players to buy, rebuy a lot of cards, right? Every time these things came out, people had to buy. And I think shortly after the Galaxy Stargate came out, they did the strategy presentation. I think it was before GPT-14, because we were in Japan at the time, and that's when we'd watch it, because it would be right after Worlds, that strategy presentation. And yeah, this is where the V, around here is when the V announcement happened. And then still, after that, you had GPT-14, which again released another series of power level, and then finishing off with the last Bermuda set, where, you know, I think everyone knows pretty well about what happened in the last Bermuda set, was that they one-upped the power creep to another level, and these all came out literally like 1 month after each other, forcing players to spend. By the time they got to like Bermuda Triangle, I think people even started canceling orders because they're like, why, right? Why should we bother? And then, you know, with that comes May, you know, V comes out, and then, you know, G ends probably like, I think, a year later, right? But yeah, that is pretty much the timeline of G. And if you look at it, you know, Luard didn't really do anything until GPT-12, and then afterwards they started releasing a series of huge power level increases that, you know, definitely drained everyone's bank accounts, made everyone feel really, really bad about the game, and then just announced a reboot, right? So those are kind of the signs that the game is rebooting. Also, the game, I think, was also on decline, right? There were definitely, I go to Japan like pretty much every year at that point, and you know, you could definitely see a kind of a lowering in the play base as the years progressed. Simply because, one, you know, the price of the game did get pretty expensive. Not just like, even if the cards were cheap, the fact that you had to replace entire portions of your deck whenever a new set comes out was, you know, obviously a very, very bad move, right? And the game did get pretty complicated, right? Everyone knows Premium right now is, you know, not a pretty complicated game, right? There's a lot of little interactions going on. In G, it was kind of similar too, right? If you're a new player, it wasn't very easy to get into the game because of all the things you had to buy and the things you had to learn. And then, you know, why would they bother with that when they could just go play like Duel Masters or something like that, right? So that was one of the reasons why they rebooted into V, and make it easy to get into, and then, you know, get new players like that. So are we at that level in D yet? I don't think so, right? But let's kind of look at V as well, right? Let's kind of look at V. So here is when Luard came out. So Luard came out in this set. This was a pretty bad set, right? I'm not gonna lie, but let's look at what actually happened before that. So previously, this is when V died, and this is when Corona as well like started happening. So, you know, less plays in the game, basically like no one could play while you're releasing very impactful sets, and they weren't even like good impactful sets. So there'd be like two lines in the entire, well, two clans in that set that were good, and the rest was just dog water, right? So let's look at the first offender. This was the Dragonic Overlord, the cross set with Messiah. Those were pretty much like the good sets. They did release OTT, which was okay, but then you had something like a Dimension. I guess Dimension Police wasn't too bad, but this did represent like a new level of power creep, right? This was definitely better than everything that was released beforehand, and, you know, it was just meta. It was literally just meta for like X number of months. Then after that, they released pretty much the Rummy Labyrinth set that had a bunch of new good cards too, right? You had Harry, that was good, right? Back then. Grand Blue, still play now. Night Rose is definitely one of the better ones. Murakumo, so this should be the Yasuie set, so that was really, really good for the remainder of V. And Dark Irregulars, so Shaharot. So again, another level of power, probably not as strong as just the cross, but definitely if you want to, you definitely had to buy this, right? And then this is when the Luard set came out, and this one was pretty much just Luard, right? Just Luard. It had like, and they started releasing like things like gimmicks in the set as well. So this one had like art illustrations for the Luard, and then it was just so powerful, it was so broken that, you know, they had to emergency restrict it, which caused, you know, that kind of negative sentiment in shops. So they just didn't want to stock. They definitely stock less of Vanguard, which is not a good combination. You don't want, you know, your retailers stocking less of your product, because then no one can buy. But at the same time, who could really buy it? You know, there was like a Corona going on. You know, events were getting less numbers. People just didn't really want to play the game against just Luard meta, right? And, you know, even the product itself wasn't good, because you look at this set, Luard, And then you had a Tachikaze, no one cares. Let's be real. You had Spike Brothers, no one cares. You had Mega Colony. No one cares, right? After that, they did release another set, and these are coming out 1.5 months right after each other. So again, you know, stores have to spend money to like immediately buy the product without knowing if it's good or not. Players have to save money in case their favorite clan comes out. And this was actually like funnily enough, set 11 was actually a huge dud, right? What was actually good from this set back then? This was Thavis, right? You could say Thavis is a really good set. Not back then. Not back then. Back then it was really bad, right? Nova Grapplers, no one played that. They had Blouse, but I mean, it's cool. But that's only aesthetics. And Nubatama, Shiranui was probably one of the better reveals then, but it didn't, again, it was pretty weak, right? Missing a lot of stuff. And then Great Nature. I think Great Nature was actually the best release for this set. And that is because Isabella got a new card that helped it out and made the deck slightly better. But it was like tier 2, tier 3 at best, right? This set was a total dud, and people would have it in stores, had to like, you know, had to like buy this early just to pre-order it, not knowing if it's good or not, and it just becomes absolutely trash, right? So a dud set followed by one of the most broken sets in existence, right? Set 12, basically every single VR from set 12 has pretty much gotten banned, right? So let's look at like what Angel Feather, Gabriel, Hamiel, gone. Gold Paladin, they released a Percival, so that's pretty much gone. Genesis, actually Genesis is still alive, right? Yeah, so Genesis is fine. Well, Narukami, Full Bronto is actually banned in Premium, lol, right? So, followed up by, this set was absolutely broken, right? And then, you know, after that, I think it's pretty much history, all right? They go, hey, let's make D. So, pretty much both of G and V shows us a little bit of a timeline where at some point they start power creeping like mad. They print out a lot of sets that are really, really strong and force you to buy it, and then they reboot the game. And like Luard, sure, they come out at different times, but they're never the cause of the game collapsing. Luard definitely, well, maybe Luard might have been for V, but let's put it this way: the construction of Luard or V in general at that point in time was pretty bloody weak. So yeah. So let's kind of extrapolate this to D. Are we getting huge amounts of power creep in every single set? No, we're not, because we have decks that are still working from a while ago. And sure, they might still be working because of PR support, but if you have a Seraph deck and you saw that Shop Challenge PR that recently got released or on stream yesterday, I think you're pretty happy. You're going, I have an old deck that is suddenly playable. Sure, I might have to spend some money or have to join some tournaments to get it. And although we might not like it on like the west side because it's very hard for us to get PRs, on a JP side where a lot of these metrics are coming from, they'd be like, yeah, you know, that's great. My old decks are suddenly playable again and I can have fun, right? Each set does release like new cards, new ride lines that are, you know, playable, right? Give support for old ride lines, but it's not like suddenly the old decks are just dead, right? They're not like annihilated, out of existence. They can't be played anymore, right? Which is kind of different from G and V, right? Whenever the new set comes out, the old stuff kind of became jank, right? And then even with these Stride deck sets and these encounter ride lines, there are still a lot. If you look properly at the metagame and not go, oh my god, Crest gives plus 5k every single turn and then increases in power, I can't beat that. If you look at the actual metagame, there is still quite a diverse amount of product that is still not an encounter or nostalgia bait that does well, right? So, I think D will be fine. We're still getting more and more plays this year, at least from what I see, has been just absolutely dominating in terms of player numbers. There's been a lot more people joining events, and I think it's probably only set to increase simply because, you know, D is a pretty good product just for anyone that is playing, right? You know, it's I guess it's like the is it Smash Ultimate, right? The latest Smash, compared to like Melee. You know, PP could be Melee, Premium could be Melee. You're like, yeah, combos wave down. But this is like, D is maybe a game better suited for just everyone, right? Everyone. So that is pretty much all I have to say, right? I don't think any of these, like, we've had good Stride decks in the past. Chronojet still does well. Messiah doesn't do well that much anymore. And I think it's going to be the same thing, right? There's going to be good Stride decks. There's going to be weaker stride decks. That's just how it is. There's going to be good encounter ride lines. There's going to be bad encounter ride lines. Just how there's going to be like good normal ride lines that get released, and there's going to be just bad ones. That's just how the game is, right? And people will try and break the game. Again, that's just how it is. And I think the game will progress fine, right? Maybe when we start seeing like broken sets released every single month, forcing you to spend money, then we'd have to get worried. But for now, all that is, when we look at that schedule, things are coming out, in 2-month intervals. It should be fine. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and I'll see you all later. All right, bye.